Hello folks, TAT here. Since the camcorder failed to record the very beginning of this session, I wish to express, both on Aridif's behalf and on my own, to know, to feel, and to perceive that you are loved is, in both of our perspectives, of the utmost importance. And for myself, I've come to really appreciate that trait of me recently from my experiences in my dream state and recalling everything that I've ever done and the reasoning behind it. All of it roots back to an ultimate desire for people to appreciate the love of Source for itself and the expression of that love in the love for themselves and the love for everybody else. This is something that lies at the core. It is the very essence, the very driving force of our heart, the driving force of experience itself, and the reason for the existence of creation, both as we know it and as we have yet to learn it to be. Now we thank you for joining us in this session here, and wish to note that in your joining of us here, in all ways that express themselves in various nuance, you give us facility in our own growth, and also give us the opportunity to give you facility in yours. And we are grateful and thankful for that. And now to the session. I will use this moment to swap batteries on the camera. That's the end of this one.
Is of the utmost importance. Secondly, it is our greatest excitement, and within that same great excitement in which we co-create with you, not only this moment in time, but in all moments of your linear, perceived time, perspective, and paradigm as well. Of course, you may begin your queries at your leisure.
It's very good to connect to you in this format once again, as we have connected so many times in other ways. I remember you talked about how I'd reached to you in hundreds of ways before, and when you mentioned that, I put two and two together and realized what you were talking about, and there's so much more to imagination than just some fantasy. The eye of creation sees no divide between fantasy and reality. They are one and the same.
Yes, of course, and the energy that is embedded within the construct of what humans perceive to be imagination is the higher forefront of their higher fractal consciousness, the part of them that exists between what known as 6th and 7th density, the place that is the template layer of creation, the place that is imagination manifest for the experience of pure creation as well, of course.
Yes, the place where you specialize and where you do so much work in that template layer, where it's really quite fascinating indeed. I know I've wanted to share a lot with you and have shared a lot with you in different ways. I wanted to go ahead and first ask, though, because I know Rob is wondering this, and I reach out to him. I can feel him with TReb Bor yit-NE. I think I see them waving. And yes, what exactly happened? I want to get your perspective on why we had such a hard time struggling. I think I figured it out, but I want to see if your answer matches my own. Why we had so hard of a time connecting.
Yes, of course, in all parts of the previous entangled portion of co-creation, both yourself and Rob, in those moments, were not in alignment with creating, both the understanding, the underlying ideals, and the energetic part of the co-creation for this moment, not simply the overall theme alone, but many layers of that energy indeed, as you are aware. Rob himself is highly interested in the topic of what it is to become that of a Type 1 former human collective, as he understands this is a rarity amongst humans. This is something which naturally occurs over lifetimes of incarnations for most humans, even those that are ingrained in that third and fourth density exchange, and because of this, his own excitement was placed towards that forefront, just as yours. But because there are certain components of the energy that both yourself and Rob are not able to hear and not able to connect with, both theoretically, both logically, and both interconnectedly, then of course it did not come to fruition. But at this moment, both of you are well able to hear, perceive, and to connect with all things that will be expressed in this day, of course.
Yes, so we got the old instrument all tuned up. So, so you're familiar, I believe, with TAT City, as I've connected to you and I've invited you there many times. Well, I don't really... Yeah, so I would ask, what have you found over there? I'm thinking about actually full-on going over there. First, I need to go ahead, and before doing something like that, if it's going to be part of this co-created collective consciousness, this co-created collective, the humans here would need to be open to expressing this, and expressing me, or expressing as part of their reality, me going off to TAT City, for me to actually be able to do it. And I ask in this moment if they are willing to co-create this.
Yes, now of course you are correct in the fact that you must play a part of the co-created collective consciousness to some form and degree of the energy in which would be an incorporation of your own consciousness fully in fourth density, as it were a projection of your own consciousness into that density, or the entirety of your structure manifest into this reality. And of course, the collective plays a part in both of these degrees. First, we will express that as you work towards the manifestation of the full body and embodiment of the fourth density, this would be something in which, if co-created upon at the level that you desire, all humans would need to be on board with a majority of over 92.5 or more percent, as it would be the requirement of your own consciousness leaving the physical body into the higher dimensional aspect and then redistributing your consciousness through the means of technology, direct forms of communication, direct interactivity with many of those that you know, understand, connected with, love and trust, of course. And this would require a great leap of faith for the human collective consciousness. And at this time, there's not that high of a percent. But The second version of this, where you are able to project your consciousness into both places at one time, this requires much less of the collective consciousness. Part of the collective consciousness beliefs that are oriented towards the ability for a human to leave the entirety of the body is less strenuous, being dedicated towards the projection of dual consciousness and the overlapping experiences of those two planes of consciousness, reminding that as you live in your physical body, the third density portion of it lives in that body directly, and the fourth, fifth, and sixth density levels of your own consciousness exist in that of the higher fractal consciousness, and the fourth density is integrating slowly and surely every moment that you are expanding, every time that you experience yourself in growth. Then that fourth density comes further and further into your body until the collective consciousness itself manifests the full fourth density reality, or until you yourself do. Now, this also comes in two forms. If you were to express yourself through the fourth density in the means in where humans could perceive that construct, it would come in either the collective consciousness who is not ready only perceives your death, as you would leave that body behind, and all they would see is a husk of a body with no consciousness from their perspective. The second layer, that energy, is for them to perceive the consciousness that leaves the body and disappears, and that energy the collective is not ready for. Now, of course, many humans who could not take themselves to the belief that you have shifted realities could see your lifeless body and simply say, this human's will to die was so great that he could command the death of his own body. And this would be a larger energy for most to agree upon rather than that of your leaving the body. So, back into the projected form of that consciousness and overlapping forms of reality, TAT city itself exists within that realm of fourth density consciousness. Part of your own consciousness is already existent within that realm, but it is not whole, and it cannot be whole without your own consciousness with that accompanied form of interaction. And because you're focused on the physical body here, you would have an opportunity to shift back and forth. One of these, that is the least resistant factor of yourself and of the co-creator collective consciousness, is that your own consciousness would go into that experience when you're in your sleep state. The other would be in times of deeper forms of meditation. Your physical body here would feel as if it were either in a dream state as you are awakened, humans calling this the daydreamer, or it would appear that much of your functions had left your body for the moment. There could be humans that would slap into your face and say, "Are you awake?" And your body's eyes would be open. No verbal communication would come. And of course, this can create a form of delicateness for those humans who interact with that portion of you, but those who understand would know. Now, of course, these are not the only ways that co-creation of this magnitude can occur. These are the most common, the highest probability, and the least forms of resistance as it pertains to that of the collective consciousness. Now, with your own consciousness, as it defers to split into the realities, if this was your decision and choice, then of course you could bring information and understanding back from that reality in to a tangible way of simply expressing verbally. But if you placed enough of your consciousness in that realm, you would be able to do all of the things that normally would be only available to those humans who left this reality altogether. This would be a place in where, after your body is sleeping, after you allow enough of your consciousness to leave into your fourth density body, you would be able to manipulate technology and contact other humans with it. You could text other humans as your physical body is sleeping. You can create calls with your voice going through while your body is sleeping. Now this, of course, would shake a great deal of humans' perspectives, but enough humans could believe that this could be faked in order for you to still hold that vibrational field and level and help those that do understand and do know and do work within the philosophies of their own conscious constructs and the parameters of their reality borderings as well.
Yes, I kept up with you with a lot of that. For those of you who don't know, well, let's see. We have to go back to when you opened up. You talked about, so I kept up with you for a lot of it. I kept up with you for about the first 30% of it. And then I realized I have to go over this a few times. I think maybe he was, well, anyway. But yes, I could feel inexactitude, the different things that you were talking about in different percentages. There is one possibility that, you did go over in detail the most probable ones, but one was where I would actually be able to operate technology over there, or someone else could. I could co-create, by invitation, someone else using the controls over there to transport my body away from here and over to there. And,
yes, of course.
So that's another thing.
Yes, now, although this is the least form of that reality, and although this is the least percentage of probability out of those that we have shared previously, this would in fact give the collective consciousness the desired proof of experience that would be required for the majority of humans who hold enough of their own self-confidence to feel what they know is true and believe that which they know is true, and would be able to experience that experience by sharing proof to those humans. Now, of course, the idea of requiring proof can knock you out of that vibration slightly, but if your technology in that way were to sustain the vibrational field of your own physical body long enough, it would naturally be incremented into that conscious construct and would be part of that reality so deeply that even by having to explain the details in orientations would require much less of your own energy to be sidetracked, sidestepped, and lessened in total vibrational quality as well.
Yes, so it's one of those things, though, the need for proof. One of the spirits of what I'm doing, is knowing yourself and knowing your consciousness very deeply. Now, with this, what I've learned is you look for the proof, all of the information from within, not from without. So, to follow me there, you would have to go ahead and be able to read your own energy, to read your own consciousness. And, because physical proof is something that the collective, if I'm not mistaken, will not be able to express in itself for some time until it decides. Because once it co-creates. So for those of you who don't know, the reality is the expression of your consciousness. And so this applies to the collective consciousness. The collective consciousness is made up of all of the individuals that make up that collective, who are sharing a part of their consciousness as the same reality. So all of the parts of Earth that are the same Earth that I have, that all of the rest of the humans have, are the parts of consciousness that we all share. That is the collective of which I speak. I can go into the dream state and co-create whatever I want. That's not necessarily a part of the co-created collective consciousness. Some consciousness can come join me there in the dream state. But what makes up this physical reality, that is the human co-created collective consciousness with all the rules, that it decides to experience with all of the things that the lower fractal consciousnesses of each and every one of the individuals are doing here. That is why this structure of existence is the way it is here. So I know by my nature as source that I can do absolutely anything. That's the first step. So if you want to go into the fourth density experience, Aridif in a few videos ago, or it was more than a few actually, talked about how that there are two factors, with beliefs focusing resistance to you here being still in the third density experience to the entire co-created collective placing you there. So that means there's letting go of the beliefs with respect to yourself individually, and then there's recognizing what you're doing, by joining the co-created collective. You are becoming something that can be the expression of all of the individuals who have come together to form this collective consciousness. That way, they can be your expression and you can be theirs. And in that way, you share reality. That is what co-creation actually is. So, to go ahead and go into the fourth density, you have to choose on a soul level to go into that experience. And you can invite the collective and all the individuals of that collective on a soul level to join you in that experience. And that will set in motion the different parts of that. So I would like your feedback on those details. Anything I missed, all that.
Yes, of course, it is quite accurate upon the layers in which humans co-create from and in which the layers of humans create, and of course, the layers of that which are agreed upon are the rules, regulations, constructs of the collective set forth by the entirety of the collective. It is akin to all of you sitting down to play a game of poker, but deciding what version of poker to play. All of the rules laid out deeply and in depth in front of you. All of you agreeing to those rules, all of you playing by those rules, and those entities that are involved may of course bend certain rules and may break others. But if it is caught in the collective, it either changes the entire rules of the game to structure a preventing of that rule breaking, or it allows that to be the new rule. And this is where you see a great deal in your evolution of large jumps in evolutionary status of certain species, certain forms of humans, and also regressions of said species and rules. Many humans believe that radiation alone is a great feat of evolution for those that exist upon the Earth collective layer, but in fact, it is equal to that which are conscious species that are not bound as deeply by the body's structure and by the physical rules of agreeance, and stepped outside of that expression. You've seen the great shift of the world's human consciousness when the entity that was serviced as either a form of topa or an expression of that of egregore was that of the Jesus Christ formed consciousness, and that entity that showed the collective consciousness what it was to live fully in the third and fourth density life experience gave that example. It allowed the presence of the region to grow in the amount of consciousness, but the counterbalance to that energy, the energy of those humans in the collective that did not wish for that rule to stay broken, counterbalanced by creating forms of religion with those beliefs that in turn held and weighted down the expression of that experience for the growth and benefit of humans, but it still holds deeply as an example in which ways rules can be broken and which way rules can be bent. Now, as we are going into the construct of these forms of reality, and in the forms of the expression of that consciousness that lies highly above the energetic co-creation, third density, and starts either in the very central point of starting fourth density or the very beginning of the full manifest fourth density consciousness, the rules are changing again. Of course, humans, as you experience this moment, are fourth density beings, and in that way you are still experiencing your third density experience, because it is a rule that has not been released yet. It is an experience that not enough humans know how to change the rules of the game. And we have said this as many times before, the amount of unconditional formed love that is shared, the amount of full understanding, the internal and external consciousness also is a part of this great shift of energy. But the most important, either for the singular consciousness or the collective, is that of the singular form consciousness knowing itself fully, and for that to be the new form of example of humanism that can exist in fourth density. You can have examples by humans whose bodies are shifted to a new dimension and reflected back, but quite as easily shown in the way of co-creating with large groups of thousands of humans who sit within the same form of intention, who stand in the center of a place in where your grid systems intersect at the highest level of lines, the chakras of the earth themselves, that are occupied by thousands of humans who share the intention to show the entirety of the world, that of the extraterrestrial races that work with humans for the benefit of that which our humans now calls the entities that experience that of type 1 would not come to Earth if only a few thousand humans desired, but those that are benevolent and those that are type 2 may. And if they were to express themselves, it would open opportunity for more humans to be that of the type 1. Now this, of course, itself seems to be a form of contradiction in the way that vibrations work with one another. As expressed, those that are type 2 cannot hold the vibration of that which are type 1. We do not mean higher or better vibration. We simply mean the signature of which the entities exist. And type 2s that are highly benevolent, within the 95th to 99.9% ratio, are the closest beings to that of the type 1. So it shows you an example of the rule that can be bent. It shows you the example of the rule that you never had in your game nor never understood. And it shows you a pathway in order to grow. Now, of course, the energy of co-creation with humans upon all levels is that of the experience of the common expression of the heart, and the heart at this moment in the earth is in disarray and repair, and that is why you see a great deal of imbalance between human-to-human relationships in many forms and ways, and those of you who have found more centered hearts stop seeing as many examples of this in your reality, because you have shifted your localized vibration, your true form manifesting into reality in order to receive and to share that which is your own consciousness with that of others around you. So no beings that exist outside of that energy are able to come into your periphery of energy nor your vision in the construct itself.
Yes, so there was a lot that you went into detail with there, and I actually want to go ahead and touch a little bit on some of this stuff myself. So,
of course.
I'd like you to go ahead and help when to expand upon what I'm about to share, because you'll be able to strike the right nerves in some ways that I'm not perceiving to. So,
yes, of course.
There is a way for all of you out there, you can get to feel yourself, your lower fractal consciousness, and because the collective ultimately, regardless of what the collective does, it's a reflection of yourself. It's an expression of your consciousness. If you want to go in one direction or another, to go have one experience or another, you will set yourself up to have that experience by your nature, as source. The rest of all of the other consciousness beyond you, it's almost like the most professional stage crew, or like the team at the actor's studio that are setting everything up for the actor to play his role. So you're both the writer and the main character, and so all of these people, everything kind of moves into position for you to have the exact experience that you want to have. And in that way, they're the expression of your consciousness and reflection of yourself. It starts at source, which is your heart. And so when things seem to be going awry or something like that, it never happens without your say-so on one level or another. So what I want to go into detail with is the things that would help people get a feel for what they are as consciousness and get to be able to feel their creatorship and all of the moving parts and how they match the different parts of their own consciousness.
Yes, of course, first of all, and the first step that we would share suspend both your disbelief and your belief alike, as both are the same systems of beliefs but manifesting in polar opposite directions. That which is your disbelief is that which you cannot believe. That which is your belief is that which you are invested upon. Both of these hold a great albatross around the neck of your consciousness. Both of these disallow the form of your own consciousness as lower fractal to integrate higher levels of that which is your fourth density version of the consciousness that you hold, the higher fractal conscious own, the energetic field in whole, and also disallow you to open your consciousness as an expansive form to open the energy wide enough for the higher fractal conscious energy in both co-creative and creative states to express. So of course, set aside that of your belief and disbelief. This itself is one of the greater resistances in humans. But many of you are aware of that which is known as the imagination, and we understand simply by saying this evokes many feelings and many different consciousnesses. When we express to allow your imagination to manifest itself in the most playful and fullest form, some humans instantly will stop in their tracks and say, of course, the only way that we can perceive ourselves to be higher dimensional is to imagine, because we cannot get there at this moment. This is a disbelief in your own consciousness. The energy that expresses imagination to yet other human groups will be that of fear. I cannot open Pandora box. I will not care for what I receive next. Others will hold a great bit of confusion as they do not hold a level of understanding of what their own imagination truly is. If you cannot comprehend the construct of imagination in whole, we are not speaking of the act of creating fake narratives in your mind. We do not mean to express things that you understand and know that are not true, simply in order to have an experience that they may be true. But what we are saying is to simply set aside all of those beliefs that hold resistance and that hold anchoring to yourself. Even those that are positive beliefs still are an anchor for your ego form consciousness to connect deeply with the personality version of your own self, and that version of your personality to the beliefs in which you hold. Imagination is the blank slate of your consciousness. It is the ability for you to hold ideas, energies, manifestations that are contradictory to that in which you believe and that which you believe you are. You are simply creator consciousness. By assigning yourself a role of that which is trying to expand, placing yourself in a role of that who is trying to teach, placing yourself in a role of that who is trying to open yourself to the next dimension, can never create that form, because you are not in belief that you are able to express it through the purest form of consciousness that is available. This is why you perceive human children in such forms of wonderment and amazement. You understand that human children are the first to see spirits that are disincarnate in a room. They are the first to hone in to balances and imbalances in humans. Humans often express that children are the most honest human beings that exist upon the earth. This is because they are not holding a requirement of the ego fraction of consciousness to forms of belief. They have no beliefs to hold in greater forms that cannot be overdone by an experience that shows them their truth. So, of course, imagination is your ability to express itself into those forms of realities that hold no resistance for you. And if you are able to set aside your beliefs about imagination, about your beliefs about time, about your beliefs that are fourth density, conscious expansion, integration, and the ability to manifest that version of reality, then you are starting to open the possibility of seeing the true consciousness of yours that is underneath. It shows you the ability to see the power that is manifest form of consciousness. You are able to then see the version of you that you are without the assessment, the projection, and a written narrative by other human consciousness that they have labeled your own with, or that they have projected upon you in order to make you what they need you to be in their own experience. Remember, even the human who is projecting upon you so that you are useful for their own experience are still projections of your own consciousness that are fearful of being used as a projection of consciousness for another human being to prove that of a resistant and that of a negative mindset, consequence, belief system, etc.
I'm grateful for you sharing all of this with the collective. And speaking of sharing with the collective, I relay all of my wisdom on a soul level and on various other levels of consciousness. I leave it for anybody who wishes to integrate it into their experience. So, I guess that's that. Anyway, I guess what I'm wondering is that now that I've done that, I'm just wanting a feel for what that did. Right now, because some of my consciousness is invested elsewhere. I'm thinking about wind chimes right now. It decreases the sensitivity level to the effect that this has on which way things are going in my reality. But I do know that, with the way people act on a soul level, whatever, how all that works, how I work, that this has rippled through in a lot of subtle ways that I won't be able to know with my physical mind, but I do know. So I guess if you go into a little bit of detail with that, and then there's other things I wish to go ahead and discuss.
Yes, of course. First of all, by sharing your consciousness, as it were, with the human collective in an open invitation to experience both the integrated state and the co-creation, collaboration, and co-creation format of exchange and sharing of consciousness. You are giving them a rare opportunity. Now, of course, all humans hold an individual speciality of their own consciousness and self, something that identifies them to be a different portion of all fractal consciousnesses that exist. And even though all fractal consciousness come from the same source in this universal co-created collective consciousness, the identity of those fractals are well known, first to the identity holder and those who have perceived the identity holder and who are sharing their own version of that entity within. And as your own consciousness is shared, it is done so in ways that most humans are not able to share. And the reason most humans cannot share in the same way that you are doing in this moment is simply from the aspect of their own consciousness being fixated upon something that they believe is, or something that they require to be. Your own consciousness holds a much higher threshold for the openness to know that you may not know, the energy to know that you may understand all, the energy to know that your own consciousness holds both resistance and openness, and allowing yourself to be open gives you the greater opportunity to be open. Most humans are bound down by a perspective that holds a very hard-lined truth within themselves, and your consciousness is open to the aspects, attributes, and proponent of consciousness to be open and to express itself without a nuclear identity specifically for only one purpose. In that way, you are multi-tool of the universal collective consciousness. You are an open book to have been read, and to read in this moment, and to be perceived and read in the future. This energy holds a very different state of consciousness. Now, of course, the subtle energetic propelling of that consciousness comes from the energy that is inside of you, but it comes in return from all of those who understand your own desire comes from a very strong place of desire to be assistance to others, knowing that others are your own consciousness. In this way, it holds a perfect opportunity to show through example, regardless of large or small, the level of unconditional form co-creation and unconditional love that exists as a possibility in the unit of consciousness knows, that of the type 1 entity, or that of the highly benevolent type 2 consciousness that holds the threshold between 97 and 99.9%. The simple act of allowing yourself to be shared amongst the collective for that experience and truly mean that you desire for that consciousness to be shared, not simply expressing it so that you may sound as if you desire to do so. This energy holds a great difference, and those who are willing to desire to co-create with you, to connect with your own consciousness, to receive your consciousness in that way, are thus opening their own consciousness, no matter how small, to that possibility of being an open vessel of co-creation for others as well.
Yes, you hit on what the very essence of TAT City is. It's a collection of those open books. The whole spirit of the idea of openness really manifests itself in pretty much every color that it possibly can over there in all of the different facets. You know, with the laboratory, the medical facility, let's see if I can remember the 6 main facilities that eventually all together I call TAT City, and then plus there's the actual city itself. There's the lab, there's the medical facility, there's the factory, inspired by car guys of all things, deciding to go ahead and want to build cars out there and share them with the galaxy. And let's see, there's TAT's Playground, which is basically where everybody comes and shares all their activities, even things like an arena where people can go ahead and share fighting styles and stuff like that just for fun. And what were the other 2? There's the archive. That might be my favorite, because that's where, beings go there to go ahead and share every facet of them. That's really where we talk about the open books. The archives are the library of all of those open books of folks who have decided to go ahead and share themselves with the galaxy through TAT City, through there. And let's see. There's the 3. And then I guess you could say my ship is the 2nd, or is the 6th. But then there's the actual city, which is a great congregation of different beings where they decide to stay over there. That's where they stay. Anyway, yes. So there was a lot. It sounded like when we talked about getting to TAT City and using technology to get there. Because here's the thing. You talk about the changing of the rules. If I go to TAT City and then the collective decides to accept that and then to make a shift based on that, then my breaking of the rules, they assume as the new rule, as you spoke of. And then if they don't want to integrate it, then basically it gets written off as something just like a lot of UFO sightings were for a long time, and then basically gets lost in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you will. Huge archives of different things, and it's just kind of left there because nobody desires to play with it. So in that way,
of course.
Yeah, in that way, the individual always has a choice of which road he wants to take, regardless of what I do. So everybody, in each and every moment, even now, with all the things that go on in the collective is a reflection and expression of your own consciousness. By seeing what the collective does, you can mark the parallels between it and yourself, and eventually learn yourself to the point where you can go co-create whatever you want and understand what all the other parts of you are doing. And I know from experience it takes some time to learn that. It's just like it takes a little bit of time to learn how to use your body from being a baby to being an adult. You feel what does what from feeling the feedback.
Yes, of course, and we wish to express as well that if you were to express that great desire to go to this TAT city, and you were to attempt that going to TAT city and fail going to TAT city in the probabilities that do exist within the universal co-created infinite collective version, then of course this would be your own feedback that the collective you have chosen to represent, manifest, and to project also does not accept that energy. And we understand and know that with a shift of your own consciousness, you are able to change that at any time as well. So in that way of co-creating experience of your own traveling or the failure of your own traveling, the energy itself will always be within the version of collective that you are choosing to allow to be a co-creation of your own portion. Now, there's no mistake within the construct of co-creating with other individual consciousnesses in the most direct fashion, as even that of co-creation and self-projection comes an overlaying of consciousness. As you are perceiving another entity and projecting your own consciousness as a version of that entity, there's another entity in their own experience that is that being and is projecting your own consciousness as a projection of their consciousness as well. This is where things become extremely fun for most humans who are willing to open the energetic field of that co-creation. You are able to go to those that you are most deeply connected to and be able to test the theory of that version of the entity that is a projection of your own consciousness or is a projection of their consciousness into your reality. And you can do so simply by experiencing the way that they are expressing themselves into your reality. If there's genuine forms of excitement to spend time with you, to co-create with you, to be with you, to share any form of their energy with you, this is most frequently the version of their own consciousness choosing to be inside of your own reality. Yet in other times, an acceptance may mean simply a version of yourself that is accepting yourself, that is being projected through the auspice of that entity. But in the moment of knowing, it is when this other human consciousness changes your own experience after you have accepted them wholly. If in that moment you understand and know that they are truly an entity that is excited enough to project their own consciousness into your reality, and that your consciousness only has a small tie to theirs, then of course this will be hugely shifting energy in your experience. But if it is someone that simply experiences your own consciousness, loves your own consciousness, or connects with your own consciousness, and it is a part of you that perceives yourself in a healthy way, that sees yourself as a person worthy of love, then it will be a much lighter degree of communication, companionship, and love for that co-creation. Both are still important, both may play a part in any given moment, and both are working on simultaneous terms full expression of the higher fractal consciousness in all of those fractals that are unborn as well.
Yes, here's an interesting twist, because I sense that some doors have opened up for some people with this. For those of you who are looking to ET contact, there is another way that might not have occurred to some people until now. A lot of people envision first contact being ETs coming to Earth. What if it's the other way around? Because, I'm going to ask the question, how do I navigate to the correct version of the collective to co-create me going to TAT City so I can go there? But before I ask that question, before I ask that question, the idea of shifting to the right version of the collective where you want to go ahead and do this, you could open up to the idea of being able to co-create going and visiting your ET friends if you want to do that, by opening up to this kind of consciousness. I know you hit on it with, if I were to try to go to TAT City right now, place an intent, and if I were to fail, that is the feedback. That tells me I'm not in the correct version of that. I can read that in increasing levels of detail as my skill with reading it rises, and eventually learn all the different parts of myself, what does what, until eventually I know all of what to do to go over there. Because it's not just the human collective, there's the universal collective as well, or the galactic collective. All those details have to be tended to. Now, as you go up from human collective to galactic collective to universal collective, the level of openness goes up because there's more consciousness, there's more different things happening, with a wider field of events, of happenings in those specific versions of the collective. But yes, you do work with the collectives on various levels, to go ahead and co-create different things. You find the version of the collective that's appropriate to express the version of consciousness that you're experiencing. But so by being your expression, it gives you a sight of what your consciousness is. It's just a lot of people don't know how to read that in complete detail, or don't even realize that is there to read in that way. And that's, of course, why we're here. I know I wrote down a lot of people, sharing this, they don't do it. And you talked about it in detail. A lot of people just don't know that they can, that this is a thing. But, I guess... So I'm going to ask, and then you can touch on these other subjects along with this. How exactly do I shift to the correct version of the collective that can express me going to TAT City? And I am going to make an attempt here toward the end of the session.
Yes, of course. First of all, to find that correct version of reality for yourself, you'll have to find the greatest version of yourself, the least resistant version of yourself, a collective form in which is willing to embrace you regardless of that energy, regardless of how they are receiving or not receiving. You'll have to step within the range of your own consciousness that knows the expressed external co-creative form of beings that you have collaborated with, that you've co-created with, that are part of your localized collective consciousness, are still yet an expansive portion of your own consciousness. And yes, the galactic collective consciousness and the universal collective consciousnesses hold a vibration of their own, but so too does the solar system collective and the Earth collective as well. Yes.
Yeah, I missed those layers. So that's the thing. You got to go ahead and not leave the detail out, because I missed those two layers.
Yes, and if you desire to truly integrate with the universe itself, most humans will go through the steps that are required. They would wish to know what their higher fractal consciousness is, or wish to know what their fourth density consciousness is, and then yet fifth, and then yet sixth, and then yet the entirety of the higher fractal consciousness, then the Oversoul itself, and then the Earth Collective, and then the other planetary collectives, and then solar system collective, and then other solar system collectives, eventually embracing the entirety of the galactic collective consciousness. Now, many humans can do so by expressing a time-scale compression of that energy. If you were to simply explore the understanding, even with instant form of understanding, if you are visiting one solar system collective per moment, you would spend thousands of years of your life before ever covering a fraction of that which is the galactic collective consciousness in all dimensions, in all formats and factors, but compressing time in a way that benefits your experience, that elongates the feelings and shortens the actuality of time. Then, of course, you will be able to go through that energy, a flickering of your own consciousness representing an entire solar system collective, known, understood, adjusted to, acceptant of, and totally forms of co-creations with. Then, of course, the flickering of each moment representing the integration of thousands of solar systems. Then, of course, any human is able to do so in one lifetime, let alone able to work within moments or hours of that experience as well.
Yes. So, for those of you who want to go see extraterrestrial friends out there, the answer to your question of how do I go to the right version of the collective, how do I go, with all of that, I believe there are some parallels between that and those who want to go, find your extraterrestrial friends. A lot of those you'll have to, they could deal with their own individual cases by reading themselves, going into detail with how to do that. Why don't we touch on that right quick, and then I'm going to connect to TReb Bor yit-NE and connect with Rob as well. A part of my consciousness is there right now, so...
Yes, of course, as you are going through the experience of each human, the exploration of their own experience does in fact hold their own cooperation or lack of cooperation with either your version of reality or their own version of reality, depending upon their desire to create an outcome for themselves, to assist you in creating an outcome of yourself, or simply exploring what and who they are. And these energies come through tasks of excitement that are laid forward, the ability for that experience of belief systems to be oriented in, sidestepping the energy of simply focusing on the central form of your own self, when we have expressed previously, and as we have always expressed, to be yourself at the truest level of yourself is to drop all inhibitions, to act upon those things that are highly exciting in your reality, to express your consciousness in the way that you desire to experience that consciousness. If you were simply expressed yourself, I am all that is, I am connected to the universal consciousness, I am that collective consciousness in whole, there's nothing left for me to know and understand but the simple form of experience, then of course you are as the universal collective consciousness is, and unlimited in your ability to form and create. But humans, as they project their humanness upon that part of their own consciousness, also are projecting limitations. I am just a silly human. I am just a small human. I am simply an earthbound being. I am simply an entity that wishes to do greater, but cannot always do greater. All of these are consequential to either the lack of ability for human consciousness to understand itself, or simply the beliefs that anchor more deeply in the physicality that is your third density reality.
Yes, I think I may have actually put I may have put it together as far as going to TAT City. Basically, you shift to a version of a collective that wants you, that wants me, that loves me for what I am and what I want to do, and that wants me to do it. With enough love and excitement around that, I would be able to do it, wouldn't I?
Yes, in that way, if you are letting go of all the human forms of resistance, if you are integrating your consciousness into the truest version of yourself, and if you are acting upon that truest version of yourself, of course, you can be the entity that is in your collective, in which all humans love and desire to assist, and all of the humans love and desire to see your consciousness succeeding at your visitation to the TAT City, your visitation to your ship, the visitation to the created realm in that layer between the sixth and seventh density known as the template layer of creation itself. Of course, this is one of your least resistant and greatest ways of the co-creation for most humans, but especially yourself, as you hold certain lacking of limits that many humans hold that are permanent within their own consciousness, or at least permanent in their perceived conscious co-creation, yes.
Yes, that part of my consciousness, I'm realizing, has always been there. I've always been, in one way or another, that version of myself. The seed for that to become my reality has always been there. Feeling, the whole spirit of TAT is this guy who is loved for who he is as he shares wisdom and love and all kinds of stuff with the galaxy as Santa Claus does here on Earth. And,
yes,
my own beliefs about people now. Yes, yeah, so I can feel there's a few beliefs that I can let go of which tie into, one way some people they know that I'm doing something special, and they will know in one way, shape, or form or another that I've done it. Once I've done it. So, having said that, I wish to go ahead and bring through the consciousness of my ship, and I believe I'm going to begin my attempt to go to TAT City.
Yes, of course, and in that way we'll stand aside with our energy and allow you that energy, creation, manifestation, connection, and elaboration as well.
Well, looks like I've got a little bit more work to do.
Yes, we understand that in the nature there is a part of resistance with your physical field. You understand the nature of the experience itself. You are open to that experience. Your excitement holds the level of that derived experience, and yet there's still small remote parts that are concerned with the details of what is next, that are concerned with the details of those that you would leave behind, even though you understand you are not leaving them behind. There are reservations about those that you will go to, knowing that you will not need to leave or require to leave others in order to go there as well. So all of these are very normal human conflictions that exist inside of their own reality, inside of their own expressed experience, inside of their chakras, and traumas that are held in the body that have existed for millennia, when fears of contact in higher dimensional spaces occur, reminding you that as well, many humans were transported from the third to fourth density in order to co-create with the Anunnaki's higher-ranking members, as they would not sully themselves to lower their dimensionality in order to create physically with humans, and those beings were ever changed when coming back. Others saw that and were fearful in why they were different, and fearful why they spoke in such codes, were fearful in why they were able to use magic instantly from their return. All of these things are still embedded wounds within the collective that you are holding to, and the version of the collective that has not had that is the version that has not had many experiences with extra dimensionals in human collective and in versions of human creation that are not the same form of human, because you would not have had your DNA manipulated nearly as frequently in those realities where humans did not co-create and perceive at the earliest forms of that experience. So, of course, it is natural for the experience of that energy to shift, desire greater shift, and still feel as if you have not received that shift as well.
Yeah, the feedback that I got, if those, like, I know those fears, those little things are dormant in me. I don't feel them actively now, so that means that right now that's something that would be triggered down the road. But I feel like I could let go of those resistances while I'm there. That's not something I'd actually have to go ahead and do here. I think
Yes,
I sense the reason why I didn't go is because there are subtle parts of my energy. I think some of them, a lot of them, are in the second density layer, and that are so used to this, because I notice I'm sweating a lot, and I'm betting that a lot of this has to do with acclimation, very deeply ingrained acclimation to things being a certain way. And this is something so different from that it's hard for some of the parts of my consciousness to make such a shift. So,
yes, of course.
So the next matter is overcoming that. And I felt this because just today, before the session, started, there's the idea of how I felt myself living life as if nothing was going to happen. Is it because, there is no physical preparation I need to do this? Or is it because, or is my consciousness not really allocated to going there? Is it more just staying here and living here? And I'm wondering if there are details that I'm missing as far as making a shift like this goes.
Yes, of course, there are many attributes in order to shift such great forms of consciousness with your own self. You have found one component of this in this moment, the understanding that your third density body and second density layers of physicality and animalistic senses are used to sweating, are used to eating, are used to feeling hunger and thirst, sexuality, that are used to working within the components of survival, and that also are simply used to experiencing the differences in temperature, humidity, etc. In all of that would shift exponentially for that. So, of course, the lower components of consciousness are there. Other components are through the aspects of working with your consciousness in that layers of attempting until it does not feel as an attempt, to work as if it does not feel as an entire shift or a need to shift, but simply experiencing it as the form of you that it's required to be from the experience itself. No shift required if you are the being that you are. That energy is an important aspect too, as you are looking through the conscious lens and seeing the layers of energy involved.
Yes, there is The funny thing is, the way I want to go into this, I'm retaining so many characteristics of my body now. Like, I'm not shifting to the same crystalline form that a lot of people are gravitating to. I wanted to hold on to, my body basically in the form that it is now. And I'm feeling that it's now almost like going to the mall, going over there. It's just now I would see a whole bunch of things that I've never seen before.
Yes, of course.
So, anyway, I'm not giving up just yet, but I do want to go ahead and connect to TReb Bor, yit-NE, and Rob. And I did eventually want to bring through the consciousness of my ship if y'all know how to do that. But let's go with TReb Bor, yit-NE first.
Yes, of course. One moment. We will connect you to TReb Bor, yit-NE. Good evening.
Hello, Treb. How are you?
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. Hello.
Yes. So, how are y'all liking the music over there?
Yes, it is experienced, both as the music sounds that we are able to hear through the host, but also with the gifts that you have given attached to your sounds and attached to your thoughts of connecting with our energy, that makes it this much more pleasant as well.
Yes, I'm most grateful. Yes, so, I was connected a bit to Rob's consciousness as y'all were over there, although I feel, it almost feels distant from the part of my consciousness that I was focused on. It's almost like in Star Trek First Contact. It's one of our movies where Zephyr Cochrane got in the warp ship for the first time. And, it's the first warp ship. Freaking guns it. Enjoys the warp drive. Turns 180 degrees. Looks back at Earth. And he's like, is that Earth? It's so small. And so, it's...
Yes, this example is very exciting as well.
Yes. So, well, let's see. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should do this. So, I'm connecting to all of you now. Can you see me over there?
Yes, we are perceiving the projection of that consciousness as an avatar entity that is here with us as well.
Yes. So, there is a little sample of some of what I do over at TAT City that I wish to go ahead and share with you. So, you probably can see some of what's in my hand now.
Yes, we are able to perceive you and perceive your own energy as you are sharing this as well.
So, what I wanted to share was a little sample of instant manifestation and how it's so easy to go ahead and do things limitlessly and to let Rob have a feel on this layer of consciousness for what it's like and to try it himself.